Before we get into today's video, I want to talk about a Kickstarter that has totally caught my attention. Eyelnd Fever Augmented Reality. This is probably one of the coolest things I think I've seen in quite some time because it's not just a comic book. It's not just even a regular book. It's a total augmented reality experience where you have a comic that you could read as a normal comic, but you also get this cool visual style with its augmented reality functions that just makes it unlike anything I think I've ever seen before. It's something that you can watch like a movie, but you can also read it like a comic. You can even play it like a video game. If you back this project and help bring it to life, they're going to be creating a 150-page hardcover graphic novel, as well as an hour-long, a 60-minute-long augmented reality experience through that same comic. So this is something that's really awesome. I can only imagine if more comics did something like this. So yeah, if this sounds like something you're interested in, go check out the Kickstarter. It is in a pinned comment and in the description below. Go check it out. Help bring this project to life and change comics forever.
You can't see me, you Stevie, wondering how I reach more evolutions than Evie and make it look easy.
What is up, Earth's mightiest subscribers? It's Blerd without fear. Welcome back to the channel. All right, today's video, I'm going to be talking about Punisher number 10 by Jason Aaron, Jesus Saez, and Paul Azaceta. When last we left off with the Punisher, he killed the god of war himself, Ares. And while Frank has already been, channeling and gaining the powers of the beast, powers that allow him to fly, powers that allow him to see into the hearts and minds of all humans, even learn how to understand and read their thoughts and hear their malices, hear about the murders that they have committed and will commit. He's gained superhuman durability and strength, superhuman speed and stamina. He's also learned how to channel the fire and flames of the infernal beast. So he's gained all of these special capabilities, but now he's become even more powerful because because he has killed Ares, he is now in a roundabout way the new god of war. And if you want even further proof that Frank Castle has literally become a god, look no further than his newfound ability to walk on water. And not only is he the new god of war, but he is now taking these powers, going out into the world and waging his one-man war on crime and taking it to the next level. We see across this comic where he is cutting a swath, not across just the United States, but across the entire globe. We see at various points where he has crashed and destroyed the airplanes and helicopters and bases of various and sundry criminals of various and sundry different types, whether they're drug dealers, pimps, pushers, human traffickers, whatever you want to call it. He is taking them down one by one, and no criminal is safe from the Punisher. We even hear at one point that he's apparently pulled up on Latveria as well. We don't really see the fruits of that. We don't see him tackle Dr. Doom in any of this. We don't see him going after the Kingpin in any of this, but he is definitely going after just about anybody else he feels is a deplorable. He's even going after white supremacist groups and things of that nature, going after racist and pederast and all sorts of stuff. He is just doing the Lord's work. And while he's been doing all this, his wife, the recently resurrected Maria Castle, everything kind of seemed like she was embracing her new role as the bride of the Fist of the Beast. It seemed in the previous issue that she had spoken with the Beast and learned a great deal about her husband, things that she technically kind of already knew but just chose to ignore. We've been learning more and more context about Maria's relationship with Frank prior to her and their kids being murdered by the Maja, but a lot of Punisher's origin has been recontextualized, and I know some people aren't crazy about it because it kind of makes him a less sympathetic character, or I would even say maybe a less relatable character, because originally Frank Castle's entire mission statement was spawned from his wife and children being gunned down by mobsters right in front of him. So that's where he starts his one-man war on crime. But over the course of this series, we've discovered that Punisher was a whole sociopath even before his wife and kids were assassinated. We have seen over the course of the series where he was already, quotey fingers, punishing people even as young as 10 years old. And even then later coming to find out that he wasn't even really as close with his wife and kids, as he would imply that he was, that he didn't really spend that much time with them. He threw himself into his work, didn't really come home very often, and when he did, he largely kept everyone at arm's length. And Maria constantly talked about how he had a secret mistress, but not an actual secret mistress, not like another woman that he was seeing on the side, but it was just that he often just seemed more interested in the killing, in the reliving the war, in staying in the fight, hence his attraction to that, and the war that he left behind being the quotey fingers other woman. It's even recontextualized further in this issue when it's revealed that Maria, who we've already knew about the fact that he was hiding lots of his comings and goings from her, and that she had been kind of sneaking into the veterans bars where the vets would sit and talk about Frank in this reverence that she could just not wrap her head around. We've learned that over the last few issues, not only did this disturb her, and that she was seeing Frank in a very different light than when she was used to seeing him at home, we've discovered that Maria wasn't that terrified by it. It didn't scare her, even though initially it did. Everything has changed because she's thrown herself into this whole hand business, even working closely with the archpriestess, whom she has a very rough relationship with. But Maria has been on board. When Frank killed the god of war Ares, Maria threw herself wholeheartedly into Frank's arms and embraced his role as the leader of the hand. And while technically she's okay with this, we also know she's kind of ready to get back to a normal life. And that is where things, I think, are getting rocky for both Frank and Maria, to the point where Maria just keeps hearing Frank say over and over and over again that I'm almost done. I'm almost done killing all the criminals in the world. And once I do that, then we can be together. But Maria is getting sick and tired of hearing Frank make these promises, even going as far as to tell him that don't come back until you are done. She's even fighting with the archpriestess about whether or not the beast is actually God or not, and what power or dominion it has, and whether or not they can even work together. But the real truth here, and I think what's the thing that's gonna kind of throw people for a loop, is I mentioned earlier that Frank was a whole sociopath before all this. In this issue, we discover the thing that actually makes it clear that Frank Castle was always going to be the Punisher, not just the stuff we saw of him when he was a kid. That stuff could have been easily ignored. But it's the fact that when he came back from the war, he was actively going out of his way to get himself, passes into executions of criminals, so he could watch them die before him. And Maria even talking about how it's one of the few times she's ever actually seen him smile, and that this was something he kept from Maria. He didn't tell her about it. He would never share any of this information with her, but these were things that she learned because she was spying on him, following him to these executions and learning the truth that he was into some very morbid stuff. Now, initially when she revealed this, I thought maybe it was going to come out that he was already going out into the streets and waging his one-man war on crime before any of the Maja stuff ever happened, which kind of makes me wonder whether or not they are going to go that route in the next couple of issues, because we know we only have 2 more issues left of this series. It's going to end with issue number 12. I feel like over the course of the next couple of issues, I would not be surprised if we learned Frank was already going out in the streets after he had already, killed someone at 10 years old. He was already going out and beating people half to death in bars before Maria was within even a country mile of being killed by a mob, boss or mob assassins. I think we are ultimately going to learn that all of this that we've been seeing up to this point was all set up for him to go out and start doing the work that he is most known for after his wife and kids were killed. And I think it's honestly going to be the main reason why his wife and kids are killed, and hence why he has this weird relationship with being the Punisher, how it's something that he feels he must do to carry on in their memory. And that's not even the only stuff that Maria's learning about Frank, or that she's revealing that she's learning about Frank. She's also learned the truth about their children. Frank has largely just been kind of keeping the truth about what's been going on with their kids from her, but we learned several issues ago that Frank can't bring them back. The hand can't bring them back. The power of the beast only goes so far, and even the archpriestess said herself that to revive someone is very difficult, and it's even more difficult to revive someone who's been dead longer than they've been alive. Hence why a lot of the times with the Hand, whenever someone's resurrected, they always come back kind of weird. Well, that's also what happened with the kids, only worse. And we actually see this mass grave where we see all of these various different headstones of both Lisa and Frank Castle Jr. And this is where we learn the truth that Frank has done this so many times. And each time that the resurrections failed, they buried the kids. And there are so many of them, Maria can't even begin to count them. Those aren't the only things that Frank has to deal with now. We know that Frank is having to deal with Daredevil as of late, and I haven't done a video for the last couple of issues of Daredevil just once again because of time, but honestly, I feel like I could just easily sum up everything that's going on here with they've already had their, I guess technically be their second battle because they've already kind of fought one another in one of the previous issues of Punisher. But over on the Daredevil side of things, in issues of Daredevil number 7 and 8, they have also fought yet again, this time not one-on-one, but with both Daredevil and Punisher bringing their respective armies, Punisher bringing the Hand and Daredevil bringing the Fist, and having them collide upon one another, and the fight being fated that Daredevil would likely lose, and that he would probably die in that instance. But the prophecy is never really truly fulfilled, and while Punisher technically doesn't lose, technically doesn't win either, really no one wins or loses actually in any of this. But just know that the war between Daredevil and Punisher is not done yet, and not only does Punisher have to contend with Daredevil, he's also got to contend with the Avengers. We learned in the previous issue that Daredevil had pretty much been telling everyone what Frank has been up to. So right now at the end of this, where we see Captain America, Black Widow, Wolverine, Doctor Strange, Moon Knight, all of them converging on Frank Castle to shut him down once and for all, it's in this situation where we learn that he's probably going to run all their fades pretty quick. Even with that said, with the Avengers and everything, I feel like we are actually going to see Frank Castle finally just give up the ghost. At least he seems to be of the belief that he is, because while he's on his one-man war on crime as the new god of war and the leader of the Hand, he encounters a white supremacist group and he kills pretty much all of them indiscriminately, with the exception of one. One being a kid, someone who has been indoctrinated into this white supremacist cell, and he just doesn't want to kill the kid, even though using the eyes of the beast, he sees the kid's intentions. And while the kid's intentions are definitely one thing, it's how the kid reveals his intentions to Frank Castle. Because when Frank Castle uses the eyes of the beast, he doesn't see the people around him as people. He sees them for the monsters that they truly are. And anything they say to him, it's all the truth. The kid is not actually telling Frank Castle that I've been raised to kill for hate. Someday I hope to, someday I will. That child is not actually saying that. It's the true intention of the kid that Frank is hearing. He is seeing that this child has been raised to be the way he is, and he doesn't feel incredibly comfortable trying to kill this kid, knowing that maybe he could probably have a better chance. He could be deprogrammed from the way he was taught to be a white supremacist. And while the Archpriestess is praying to the beast that Frank will strike the child down, much in the way that the Emperor was begging Luke Skywalker to strike down his father Darth Vader so that he could fully give himself over to the dark side, that's exactly what the Archpriestess is doing here. She is begging Frank. She is crying out to her god, the beast, that Frank Castle kill this kid, because if he does, he will truly become the fist of the beast, the way the Archpriestess has intended, even saying she would give him everything he ever wanted, including, very possibly, his children resurrected, something she couldn't do before because Frank had not given himself over fully to the beast, or at least so she implied. But Frank's not gonna do it. He lets the kid go. And it's implied here that he might just give up this whole Hand business. He says that he's coming home, and that is when he ends up running into the Avengers. So I feel like we're at that kind of that precipice, that point where Frank has to make a choice, and I don't really know where it's going to go from there. I feel like by the time we get to the end of this, I don't think Frank is going to be the Punisher as we have known him these last several issues, but I also don't think he's going to be going back to being the Punisher as we've known him before. I feel like he's going to come back a very changed person, or at least I hope. But anyways, that's everything I want to talk about with Punisher number 10. If you enjoyed this video, do the YouTube thing, like, share, comment, subscribe, and make sure to tap that notification bell so you don't miss out on any of the videos that I put out. We're trying to reach 100,000 subscribers in 2023, so do me a favor, hit that big red button. Until next time, let me know what you thought about Punisher number 10. Keep it plus ultra, and sound off in the comments.